Welcome back, students. So, in the session one of the module 3, we're able to understand the basic difference between multi-threading and multitasking, and what is meant by a process and what is meant by a thread, and what are the applications you can treat it for the multitasking, and what are the kind of applications you can consider for the multi-threading, and the major difference in terms of address space share and less time for the context switch between the threads in case of multi-threading. And these things we covered in the session 1 of the module 3. Now we'll continue with the session 2, which is basically to explore the details how exactly the threads are created in Java. So if you come across the set of library functions that you are used in the Java programming in order to build your applications, then all the libraries are developed in such a way that it should be able to support the multi-threading. The concept of multi-threading is incorporated in most of the Java library functions. And if you take an example of collections, in collection also, some sort of collections supports for the multi-threading, and some collections won't support for the multi-threading. I mean, we have a feature called synchronous collection and asynchronous collection. So in the model 2, it's been mentioned about which collection is a synchronous and which is not a synchronous. Synchronous means it is the multi-threading, and asynchronous means it is not multi-threading. So coming to the Java's threading model, how exactly the set of library functions are defined in order to create the threads in Java. And what are the default number of threads will be running when you are executing a single Java program. And is there any multiple techniques for creating the threads in Java? So basically we have two types for creating the threads in Java. One is by implementing the runnable interface in the class where you are defining, and another one is by extending the built-in thread class for the class where you are assigning the task. So when you define a thread, no, you should be able to assign some task to the thread. So before the threads gets created, you should be able to assign the task or a job to be performed by that thread. Means, assume that I wanted to print the numbers from 1 to 100. So assuming this is a task. This task should be assigned to the thread that you are creating. So that code should be a part of the class where you are trying to implement the thread. It's just a overall or a brief idea of what is a task related to the thread and all that. The details of each of the library functions that are supported, how exactly we implement the program in order to create the threads, and what are the library classes supported in Java for the creation of the threads, and all these things we are exploring one by one. So I'll share the screen for my presentations, and further we'll try to explore the details. So we stopped at slide number 11. We'll continue with the code. Okay. We'll explore the details of the single-threaded model, or what we call it as a polling. In a single-threaded systems, use an approach called an event loop with polling, which means if a process is reserved for the central processing unit to complete its task, how do we complete the task of the process is by executing the set of instructions associated with that process. until all the set of instructions that are associated with that process now, it will not allow any other process to enter, and system will be in an idle state. I mean, CPU cycles gets wasted in case of the single-threaded systems. And in this single-threaded model or single-threaded systems, a single thread of control runs an infinite loop. Infinite loop means all the set of instructions assigned for that single thread should be able to complete. And polling the next event queue to decide which instruction to execute. I mean, the next process should wait until that existing or the allotted process completes its task. And if there is a delay in the execution of the instructions, and of course the CPU cycles gets wasted. And until the instruction returns the value, nothing can be done with the system unless the process completes its job. And the result, the overall result of this single-threaded systems are wastage of the CPU cycles. Take an example of IRCTC reservation system. If there is only one thread of control for booking a ticket in the IRCTC website, so user one request for booking a ticket, and if the booking happens immediately, things are fine. And if there is a delay in the payment process or any transaction failure or whatever the details, that thread will become idle until the remaining the process completes. And the entire system will get blocked, and the second user cannot book the ticket unless the first user completes. So this is what we call it as a polling. The major drawback of a single threaded system is our CPU capacity is higher. It can perform the things faster, but you are not supplying the sufficient work. You are not giving the sufficient work for the central processing unit in order to complete its task. And if the number of tasks are more, then CPU utilization can be improved. So in case of a single threaded systems, the major drawback is the CPU is it is underutilized. I mean, utilization will be very less compared to the other systems. Now we'll move on to the next type of systems, what we call it as concurrency in Java. Concurrency in Java or multi-threaded system. In case of multi-threaded systems, then always when you are executing a single program, by default, without our knowledge, always a single thread of execution it will be running. And if you want to perform any other additional task, you can do so either using the existing thread, and if you want to achieve the multi-threading, you can create the number of threads from the application. So you can create as many as threads you want, so based on the requirement. So in case of multi-thread worker is started, it is executed on its own thread independent of the main thread. So once you create any additional threads, maybe a second thread or a third thread or a fourth thread or any child threads that you have created, each of the threads will be able to complete their task without having any dependency on the main thread. That is what the beauty of the multi-threading. And one benefit is all these child threads, what you are creating from the main thread, each of these threads or child threads will share the address space that is associated with the main thread. That is a beauty, and the communication between each of these threads will be relatively faster compared to inter-process communication. Now this is what we call it inter-thread communication, and the other one is inter-process communication. Now if you look at this diagram, there are total 4 applications: threads, the main thread, curly thread, Larry thread, and a Moai thread. Here, You have a set of instructions for your program. So once you load it to the memory and once you execute, and once the execution begins, then always main thread will be running. And from the main thread, based on the code that you have written in the program for creation of the threads, then thread 1 will begin its job, followed by thread 2 will begin its task, and followed by thread 3 will begin its task. And all the 3 threads will be carrying out some sort of work, maybe printing the numbers between 1 to 100. Either you can give a same task for each of the threads, or you can give a different task for the different threads. It is up to the problem that you are focusing. We can give the printing job of 1 to 100 to the thread 1, thread 2, and the thread 3 respectively. And as an outcome, whatever the number it is displayed, you can configure from which thread that number is printed. That also you can highlight. So once all these 4 threads gets initiates, main thread, thread 1, thread 2, and thread 3, and each of these threads will complete its job and return to the main thread. So in this example, the thread 1 completes, followed by thread 2 completes, and followed by thread 3 completes, and followed by the main thread. So this a completion of this thread execution, it is not under the programmer control. The system will define based on the load that you have given, it ends the respective threads. It will take a call, whether a thread 1 to be ended, or a thread 2 to be ended, or a thread 3 to be ended, or a main thread. So based on the task that you have assigned for each of the threads, it will decide on the completion state. So this is what we call it as the entire timeline. We call it as the application lifetime line. And once all the 3 threads ends, and when the application ends now, your main thread also gets stopped. Now let us compare this multi-threading system concurrency in Java. So try to differentiate between this multi-threaded system with the single-threaded system. In case of single-threaded system, we have only one thread. Unless the first thread completes, the second thread or a second process cannot take a chance. Here all the things, all the three or four things will go parallel. So one beauty is, remember, this is very, very important with respect to multitasking or a multi-threading or a multiprocessing or whatever. At any given point of time, say for example, 2 minutes, 2 p.m., 0 minute, 0 seconds. At this given point of time, at max, only one thread can take the control of the CPU to complete its task. Maybe for the next very fraction of second, the other thread may take a chance. But at a given point of time, only one thread can execute. You may ask the question, if that is the case, then how can you say it is a multi-threading? Which means there is a very fast context switch between the threads in order to achieve the multi-threading model. You cannot make out the context switch between these threads. You cannot notice also. So like that, there will be a fast context switch between these threads. What is mean by that? A faster context switch means thread 1 will finish, will go out, thread 2 will take a chance immediately, thread 2 will go over, thread 3 will take a chance, then followed by the main thread. And of course, sometimes what happens, thread 1 can complete 50% of the task, give a chance to thread 2 for the remaining 50%, and again thread 3 remaining 50%, then again thread 1 can complete the remaining 50%, what is left out when it got its first chance, then followed by thread 2 and a thread 3. So this order may be anything. It may be a 1 followed by 2 followed by 3, or 3 followed by 2 followed by 1, or whatever the order. This order is completely random, and it is purely based on the load that you have given and if you set any priority. Next question, how these threads to be scheduled? I mean, thread 1 should take a chance first, or a thread 2 should take a chance, or a thread 3 should take a chance. It will be decided based on the thread scheduler that is implemented in the system. Thread scheduler, it may be a first come first serve or a priority based scheduling or a shortest job first. Among these three threads, which thread has the less load? For that thread, you give a chance. So that is comes under shortest job first. First come first serve means thread 1 is coming first, then followed by 2 is coming, and followed by 3 is coming. So give a chance for 1 and give a chance for 2 and give a chance for the 3 and so on. Priority means among the 3, as a programmer, I will fix a specific thread to be completed first because I have a constraint to say this is much more important compared to the other. So that comes under the priority scheduling. So based on the scheduling technique that is implemented with respect to the threading model, the threads will be scheduled and completes their tasks. So this is a major difference between single threaded model and the multi-threaded model, and this is the concurrency in the Java. So coming to the Java's multi-threading model. Java's multi-threading model. So what is the beauty is involved in this Java's multi-threading model in order to create the threads with respect to the practical aspects. So let us look into the things, what are the library support given by the Java programming language to perform this multi-threading. As I mentioned before, Java has completely done away with the event loop polling mechanism. There is one process after the other. That is which results into the CPU wait. I mean, which is completely done away from this polling mechanism, which means, as I mentioned, all the library functions and the code what is already built in or defined in the model, which is by default it will come along with the what we call it as a multi-threading system. So in case of Java, all libraries and the classes are designed with the multi-threading in mind, what I mentioned before. This enables the entire system to be asynchronous. In Java, this is in this particular package, the java.lang.thread class is used to create the thread-based code imported into all Java applications by default. Main java.lang. This is the one package we have. Under this, there is a built-in class called thread class. From this thread class, we'll be able to create the user-defined threads. The meaning of this is whatever the essential features required for the creation of the threads, those essential features are included as a part of this built-in thread class. Let's move on. As I told, so java.lang.object, this object class is a master class. We call it as a master class or the topmost class in the hierarchy of all the Java classes. So java.lang.object. As a subclass of this java.lang.object, so java.lang.object, as a subclass of this java.lang.object, we have a new class, new built-in class that is defined, what we call it as a thread. Remember, thread class implements a runnable interface. This runnable interface, which is defined in a thread class, because of this reason, there are two techniques for the creation of the threads. The first one is, whatever the runnable interface you have, That runnable interface you can implement in your own class where you are trying to create a thread, or this thread class already implemented a runnable interface. You extend from this and make your own thread. So here it is the idea for the creation of the two threads. Two ways for creating the thread. So this thread class primarily it comes with the two primary thread controls. One is with the start and another one is a run. So always whenever you make a call to, this is a built-in function associated with the thread class. Remember, start and run, and there are a couple of other functions also there as a part of the thread class that will explore in detail one by one once we complete this. This start, when you call a start method, automatically it makes a call to the run method. And what we will do inside the run method of this thread class is, whatever the task you are going to assign, that task should be defined inside the run method. For example, printing the numbers from 1 to 100. So the for loop for printing the numbers from 1 to 100 should be a part of this run method. Or you can define some other method for printing the numbers from 1 to 100, and that method call should be from inside the run method. It's very clear. And your thread is alive, and till when a run method is keep executing. When a run method stops or terminates, your thread is going to die. Which means the thread won't be there afterwards once a run method stops. So your thread life starts from the execution time, starting execution time of the run method and ending execution time of the run method. Then who is going to call this run method? Start method is going to make a call to the run method. So this start method should be called by the developer in order to begin the execution. Yeah. So let's brief the things. You have a java.lang.object, which is a master class. Under the java.lang.object, you have a thread class. In the thread class, you have a couple of library functions. Among that, the two things what we are considering right now, start and the run method. So a developer needs to make a call to the start method in order to begin the execution of the thread. And in turn, start will make a call to the run method. Once the run completes the task assigned to it, it returns back to the caller. And it continues with the other operations. So which is what we call it as a life cycle of a thread. Very important question with respect to an examination point of view. So when you create a new thread, so developer should make a call to the start method. So once you call the start method, the thread enters into the runnable state. Runnable state means which is ready to begin the task assigned to it. For example, printing numbers from 1 to 100. So it is ready with all the stuffs that is required for printing numbers from 1 to 100. So it is a ready state. Like how you do the process scheduler diagram, in the similar way, you have a life cycle of a thread. So now it is in a runnable state. So once the start method calls the run method and it enters into the running state. Running state means it started printing the numbers from 1 to 100 for the task part we have considered for the sake of explanation. So once it is running, so it is keep running unless it completes its task that is for printing the numbers from 1 to 100. Suppose in between, if a developer wishes to stop or to halt the execution of the thread, we can make a thread to sleep for some extent. Usually what happens, while printing the numbers from 1 to 100, a thread will execute in a very faster way so that you cannot notice the generation of the numbers from 1 to 100. So what you can do is you can introduce a delay, or you can make a thread to sleep for some time, and after that again you can make it resume. In order to observe the process with respect to the thread execution, then you can make the thread to sleep for some extent, and that state we call it as a not runnable. And again, we can make a sleeping thread to bring it to the runnable state by making a call called notify. And also, when it is in a not runnable state, I mean sleeping mode, what you can do is you can test whether a particular thread is sleeping or whether it is alive. So for that, you can make use of a library function called is alive. So if it is true or a false, then it will report accordingly. And in order to bring the sleeping thread to again to the runnable state, you can use notify method. I repeat, now a thread can enter from running to sleep mode. From sleep mode to runnable state, you can bring it using the notify or notify all built-in function. And in order to make the thread from running state to the sleeping state, you can make a call to the sleep method. Okay. So coming back, so I was just explaining about the Java thread model. Yeah. So in order to bring the thread from running to sleep mode, you can make a call to the sleep method. And in order to bring the thread from sleep mode to runnable mode and enter into the running state, you can make a call to the notify or notify all method. That will be discussing later. How do you control the threads? In a separate topic, we'll be discussing. So after that, once the thread completes its job, so thread will be terminated, and that state we call it as a dead state or end state. So this is the very important, probably a 6 marks question with respect to your examination point of view. So that is, we call it as a life cycle of a thread. Okay. At the beginning, I mentioned always when you're executing a program, by default, always a single thread of execution will be there. So that single thread of execution, we call it as a main thread or a current thread. So main thread, it begins running and when you execute a program by default. And thread class, in order to refer to the current thread that you are executing or a main thread, you can use a method, static method of the thread class called a current thread. I told no. If a default thread is running, how do you have access to that current thread? If you are creating a new thread, you have a new class for that, and using the object of that class, you can control it. But how do you control the current thread that is created automatically by uh, the system when it started executing? When a program started executing, how do you have access to that current thread or a default thread that is being created for the program that you are running? So that can be done using the one of the static method library functions that is associated with the thread class, and the name of that method is a current thread. We'll be demonstrating this in the form of a program. Now look at this. Obtaining a current thread of execution or a main thread. So obtaining the current or a single thread of execution will be like this. And I'll try to print the details of that a single thread of execution or a main thread that is running. So here it is I'm defining a class called thread info and a main method. In the main method, so if you define a class and a main method, and if you are executing it by default, there will be a single thread of execution. So thread T is equal to thread dot current thread. So current thread, as I mentioned, it is a built-in function of the thread class. As it is a static method, so you should use a class name, built-in class name called thread dot current thread. So have a reference for this current thread as T. For the new thread that you are creating, you may have your own reference name, but for this, you are making a call to the current thread and you are assigning to the reference variable called T. And I'll try to display current thread T and T dot set name. I want to name the default thread as demo thread. I am setting the name for it, and after that a new name you can print. So new name of the thread is, which is a T. And further you can make the main thread to sleep for 1000 milliseconds, sorry, 1000 seconds. Thread dot sleep, as I told, sleep is a built-in function that is defined in a thread class, and make a thread to sleep for 1000 milliseconds. Then in this period, when a thread is at this, when this particular statement gets executed, a thread will be uh, there will be a transition from a running state to sleep state. And once this duration completes, it will go back to the runnable state and in turn to the run state. In this sleeping period, if any interruption happened, if someone makes a thread to awake and instruct to perform some task before this 1000 milliseconds gets over, and there will be an exception will be generated automatically by the Java runtime environment. That is what we call it as a interrupted exception. I repeat, in this duration, what we fixed it here, in order to make the thread to sleep for to a certain duration. In that duration, if any interruption happened, interruption may be someone comes and make the thread to awake, then that is nothing but the interruption. If any interruption occurred, an interrupted exception will be generated automatically by the Java runtime environment, and it will be thrown. So catch interrupted exception. So system.out.println of main thread interrupted, which is a one illustrative program how we can refer to the main thread of execution or a default thread of execution in the program that you have developed. Next, as I told, now the question is, how do you create your own threads in the Java? One is by implementing a runnable interface. Runnable is a built-in interface in a Java library. Only your job is to implement in your class. You are going to create the new thread. And the second way is just already this runnable interface is already implemented in the thread class, and you take it and make use of it. That is only the difference. Here, things are ready by 50%. Here, the 100% things are ready. You just extend and customize as per your requirement. So these are the two different techniques we have in Java in order to implement or in order to create the new threads or your own threads. Now, with respect to the examination point of view, sometimes illustrate a program by creating your own thread using runnable interface. You should be able to write, you should be able to explain and write the program by using only this particular technique. If the question is asked using runnable interface, sometimes they may ask illustrate the new thread creation using a thread class. So that also we can do here, but we can write only about this. In general, if it is asked for say a lengthy question like a 10 marks question, so it will be good if you mention both the techniques for a one or two thread creation with a small amount of task that is assigned to it. Okay. Coming to the first technique, what we call it as creating threads, that is by extending the built-in thread class. Now, what you should do here, these are the tasks to be performed when you are dealing with the second approach, what we listed here. This is the second approach and this is the first approach. First, we'll try to complete the second approach by extending the thread class. So whatever the new class that you are going to define for the creation of a new thread, that class must extend from thread class. Here it goes. Public class thread demo1 extends thread. And whatever the run method that has been already implemented in the thread class, you must override. Override means run method is already there in the thread class that you are extending, that you are inheriting, which means run method will come as it is. Now you make a customization based on your requirement. That is nothing but you are overriding. You are rewriting the run method of the third class that is inherited again in the new class that you are going to define. So let me put the things like this. So you are defining your own class. Thread demo1 extends thread, which is a built-in class. And what you should do? You should override the run method. So public void run. You should override the run method. So public void run. Something is there in the superclass version of the run method, but I need like this. So I'm redefining it, run. So just to put a message, thread is running. Next, this is just a code for the creation, what is the task given. Now, if you take an example of the task, a task assigned for this thread that you are going to create is printing the name called thread is running. That's all, nothing more else you are doing here. So the task of the thread is to print the message thread is running. In order to make the thread to begin the execution, you define a main method. In the main method, your simple job is to create the object of the thread demo1 class. How thread demo1 is defined? Thread demo1 is defined by extending the thread class, and you are overriding the run method. So create the object of the thread demo1 class. Now, how you create the objects in Java? New is the operator space thread demo1, which is the class you have defined where you are creating a new thread here. This is the object creation, and you assign to the one reference variable called thread demo. This thread demo variable, reference variable should be of type thread demo 1 because thread demo 1 is your class name. Now, you have defined a class and you have done all the things. You have to make a thread to start, no? So make the thread to start by making a call to the method called start. Thread demo 1, thread demo is your object name, thread demo dot start. This start, what it will do is, it will make a call to the run method automatically. Then it prints a message thread is running. After completing the job, it will return back to the caller. Who is the caller of this run method? Start. It will come here and it completes the job. So this is how a simple user-defined thread can be created by extending the thread class. So let's put the things all together. First job, define your own class. That class should be extended from thread class. In the built-in thread class, you have a run method. So that run method, by default, it will be inherited. That inherited method should be overridden, which is called as a overriding. In overriding, what you will do? You do the task, you just assign a task that you wanted to assign for the thread. So that code should be written inside the run method. And after that, in the main method, create an object of the class that is extended from the thread class. Create the object. From that object variable name, object reference variable name, you make a call to the start method. So thread demo dot start. So thread will begin now. So as an output of this program, thread is running. That will be printed. That's all. This is the one way of implementing the thread creation process. Next one, yeah, as I mentioned, whatever the uh, things required for creating a new thread using the extending thread technique. So I have completed now with a simple thread. Of course, after that, we'll be creating the multiple threads together. I mean, 3 threads we'll try to create and we'll try to illustrate. So coming to the second technique, creating the threads by implementing the runnable interface. So what we'll do here, so in the runnable interface, there is a run method and you have to write the code over there and make a call to the start method. Okay, let's do the things like this. After defining the class that implements runnable, we have to create an object of the thread from it. Okay. So you have to define a demo thread that implements a runnable. Runnable is an interface where run method is a part of that interface. And if any class is implementing an interface, it must implement all the methods of the interface that you are implementing. So runnable interface has a run method. You should write a run method inside the demo thread. As simple as it is. So here a thread runnable and a string name. So the thread, it has a constructor where you can assign a thread object, runnable thread object name, and followed by you can assign a name to the thread that you are going to create. Okay, let's look into the example of creation of a thread using the second technique, that is by implementing the runnable interface. So define a class called thread demo. This is the class that you are defining. So implements a runnable interface. What I told, runnable interface has a one method called run. If a class is implementing any interface, it must implement all the methods of the runnable interface. Among that, one is the run, which is a major concern for us. Public void run, and the task I'm assigning here is to print the numbers from 1 to 100. I was keep telling about printing the numbers from 1 to 100. So counter is equal to 1, counter less than is equal to 100, counter plus plus, and you print it as thread is running and a counter. So every time if you keep printing the value that ranges from 1 to 100. So this is the task we assigned for the run. And coming to the main method, in the main method you should create an object of the class where you have implemented a runnable interface. So I implemented the runnable interface in a class called thread_demo. So I'll create an object of the class thread_demo. And this main is also a part of the class thread_demo. That's fine. New thread_demo, and this object should be assigned to some reference variable. That reference variable name is a thread_demo. That is lowercase thread_demo. That's fine. And using this, once you create an object of this thread_demo, you should attach this thread_demo object with the thread object, because runnable interface and run method always it deals with the run method. So new thread of thread_demo. So create an object of the class called thread, new thread of thread_demo. Whatever the thread_demo that you created, you are attaching to a thread and you assign to the T1, which is how you can link your runnable interface with the thread for the new thread that you created. Thread T1 is equal to new thread of thread_demo. Now you have to make the thread to start. T1 dot start. So this T1 dot starts automatically. It makes a call to the run method and it prints the numbers from 1 to 100 and it finishes the task. It will give back to the caller, which is a main method, and it terminates. And you can notice the things here. Thread is running 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and so on up to 100. So this is how it goes. This is the second technique for creating the thread, that is by implementing the runnable interface. And extending thread or implementing runnable. Modeling heuristic pertaining to heuristics says that classes should be extended only when they are enhanced or modified, and overriding run method and not override any other threads. So among these two, which one is better is always extending the extending from the third class, which is recommended to implement the it is recommended to implement the runnable interface, and you can choose accordingly. So here, one more important observation is if you don't want to override any other methods of the thread, then it is recommended to go for the runnable interface. If you are overriding any of the methods, any of the other methods of the thread class, you can go with the extending thread technique. So creating multiple threads, that will take it in a next session. We'll stop now at the end of this session 2. I'm able to define what is mean by Java's single thread model and Java's multi-thread model, which is nothing but a concurrency in Java, and Java's programming support for the creation of threads, which can be done in two ways. One is by extending a thread class, and other one is by implementing the runnable interface. Suppose if you don't want to override any of the methods of the thread class, go for the technique of implementing runnable interface. If you want to change anything with respect to existing methods of the thread class, then go for the creation of the thread using the other technique, that is extending the thread. So two terms we use frequently: extending the thread, implementing the runnable interface. Extending the thread is used when you don't want to do any changes for the libraries. Runnable interface can be used when you want to do some changes for the libraries. So we'll continue with the creation of the multiple thread and Eclipse demonstration of the demonstration of the creation of the multiple threads. We'll be doing in the session. Thank you.